Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from beautiful Tucson, Arizona, it is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host, and bestie, and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, co-stupid ass. I need some canned clap. Oh, there it is. There's the canned clapping. Canned laughter, canned clapping, and a wah, 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 wah button.
Maybe
like
a boing and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I want a sound effect thing.
You saw Nam Ross do that, and you said we need that, right?
I did. It's okay.
It's nice.
Copying is the biggest form of flattery.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Nam Ross has a nice, for those, many don't know him, I'm sure, but
He has a nice
podcast that's called The Late Morning Show.
The Late Morning Show. No, the Late Morning Program.
The
which
Late
is
Morning
funny.
Program.
It's like the morning program, the late morning program. It's like a late night show.
It's like, but because you show up late for the morning program a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's a late morning.
It's like a temple thing, the morning program. Are you going to the program? You know, devotees in the ashram always use this word program. They say, "What's your program? What's your program today?" It's like these Hare Krishna words that you just sort of like start to adopt. What's your program? I'm a neophyte. I've never ever said the word neophyte till I met the Hare Krishna devotees. A neophyte? What does that mean? Bonafide? You know how many times I say bona fide in a day? That's so unbona fide and bogus. Hashtag Hare Krishna words. Anyway, if you're new to the show, you have no idea what we're talking about right now, but welcome. This is the study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the ancient book of India that deals with exclusively bhakti. And although it deals exclusively with bhakti, it gives an understanding of all the other different processes of advancing your consciousness, of metaphysical stuff. My astrologer told me I'm getting into Saturn now, and I'm winding down Jupiter. And my Thursdays are big because it's the day of Jupiter. I have to wear yellow. If you see me wearing yellow on Thursday, Jupiter. It's a worship of Jupiter. And you know what's interesting? Any Waldorf teachers out there? The Waldorf teachers, they all wear colors also according to the planets. Yeah. You don't know that unless you're in the know, the secret Waldorf teacher society. But they do. But Rudolf Steiner was also into Vedic stuff. So anyway, Thursday is the day of the Guru, the day of Jupiter, but I'm doing a big switch. I'm in the Sandhya, the melting up into my new Saturn period. You're in your Saturn period too right now, right, Stu?
I am.
All right. See, I'm
Feels
going to
good.
become.
Feels good.
It feels good, right?
Yeah.
Jupiter's powerful, but Saturn's cool, and you are going to be in Saturn together. And I'm going to get a rocking chair, 2022 March. That's when I get fully into my Saturn. I'm just going to start rocking and being wiser.
All right. Hey, why don't you mute everyone's mic, Raghu?
Okay, we got some unmuted people out there.
Yeah, at least I know it's one.
We're waiting that day where people go postal. People go postal on Zoom, start screaming stuff out on our podcast. Mute all. We give a lot of liberties to these Zoomers. If you're listening to on Zoom, we got 77 people today. Please write up some comments on the board. I love to look over at your right while Kostuba's talking, and I should be listening and looking at all your comments. And then Kostuba will ask me a question. I'm like, what? Yeah. Like in school, and the teacher calls on you and you're not listening. I met a lady the other day who I met at the temple, and should I say this? She was at a kirtan singing so enthusiastically, I was inspired by her singing. She was not much older than me. I'm pretty old. I like to think everybody is older than me, is much older than me, but I guess I'm old and they're probably not that much older than me. but she was so enthusiastic in her singing. And then I saw her at the Sunday feast, and I gave her a hug, and I said, when did your spiritual life begin? And she said, it began for me when I was 5. I said, how did it begin? And she said, I was just a little child spinning and spinning and spinning like kids do. And I banged my third eye across a door, and it split my skull open. And I had surgery. She goes, I remember them sewing up my skull. And she said, from that moment on, I could read people's minds. And she goes, as a child, it was too much for me. I couldn't tolerate it. And I shut that part of my body down. And she met a friend in first grade who was a telepath, and they could communicate with their minds. It's a good story. It sounds far-fetched, but it was so matter. She was just speaking matter of fact. I said, can you do it now? Are you reading my mind now? She said, no, I shut it down. But me and this person became good friends. We just spoke with each other in the mind. I wonder how many telepaths are out there that we just don't know, but they're all talking. They're just talking about stuff. And then we're just thinking it's all normal. That stuff's true. I'm fully convinced that stuff's true, man. What do you think about that? Yeah, they are.
Do you think they're boring?
They're probably a little boring. If you're married to a telepath, you don't even have to say anything. They're just like, my parents might have been telepaths. They didn't talk much. Am I diverting already, Costume? This stuff's
Already.
Anyway, it's out there. The truth is out there, Costume.
I know. It's in the Bhagavatam.
I know, but I wanted to lead into the Bhagavatam with mystical stories about whacking your third eye.
Okay.
All right.
Now that my third eye has been whacked, let us proceed.
Well, have you ever heard of Shaktipat, where the guru comes and whacks you on the... Well, I'm serious. Shaktipat, this was a big thing. I think it was the guru whacks you on the third eye and like opens your third eye.
It doesn't happen in our...
we don't do so much in our tradition, but I've had it done to me. I've been whacked in the third eye by a guru. It felt like you're getting some Shakti put in your skull. It was my mystic pranayam teacher, whacked me in the third eye, came out of a cave, whacked me in the third eye, gave me a mantra. That's a whole nother story. But anyway, Shaktipat, the transference of Shakti. But truthfully, anytime you put your hands on anybody, it's a transfer of Shakti, right? You shake someone's hands. Costume, did you ever like distribute books and shake people's hands? Hey, how are you? Welcome to the
13 years.
Whatever. 13. Now, didn't you ever do that? Like, don't you feel like you're like picking up people's stuff in the transference of energy?
Kind of
What's that?
I'm not tuned into that kind of thing. It doesn't.
I thought you'd be the
honestly, it doesn't interest me very much.
It's not interest, but I did that. I did that, like, meeting people, shaking their hands and thing for like a month. I have like nightmares of like I feel like you're taking on people's energy. Maybe you're just a person that doesn't take it on. And you feel protected. I just suck people in.
Radha's that way.
Radha's that way too. I'm here with Radha and Damodar here in Tucson. They're live today. Anyway, you create a transcendental force field. I am like a sorry sponge. All right, let's read this wonderful book. Should I be worried about the coronavirus while I'm traveling today? I'm about to get in the plane.
You should read the Bhagavad-gita.
All right. Okay. All righty.
Thank you.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of our conquest, one should offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati utama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. by regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee. All that is troublesome to the heart will become vanquished, and loving devotional service to the transcendent Lord, whose teachings will be established in the heart as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Malatam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
So we start a new chapter today.
Start a new chapter. You know, I really think, as I was going to bed last night, I was thinking that last chapter was so massive because it's everything sort of like we're going through now in culture, where you have people just hating. You're hating the other side. The Democrats hate the Republicans. Republicans hate the Democrats. You know, South hates North, North hates South, gun control, no gun control. And it's just become such a nasty war out there. You're scared to say something publicly because you don't know, like that person you're having a nice exchange with as you're in line to go get a cup of coffee or online to get a cup of tea. You don't know if you say something, you're going to like immediately, everything's going to turn. You're going to have a war in the airport lounge or something over something political. And we've created so much hate. And here we had Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. We've had all the great souls, all the five Pandavas, Draupadi. They all have different opinions on whether Ashwatthama should be punished. Ashwatthama, you know, and it's nice to know that great personalities can differ upon things. And there can be people that are even practicing bhakti that you just don't agree with, you just don't get along with. And you know what? You don't have to hate them. You don't have to hate people. You can just be like, this person doesn't jive with me. I'm going to find a tribe that sort of jives with me, that speak how I speak. But and I see it again and again, I'm sure you have too. Maya's trick is to make us hate, because hating keeps you in the material realm. Maya's trick is to make a campaign of hate, where I'm sort of like, I'm just fixed in hate and taking somebody down. And there's so many different sides to any argument. When there's a divorce, there's always two sides, even if he cheated on her, he was an alcoholic, you know, there's always other sides. And go on, go stupid. Now you say something intelligent.
Well, you know, I mean,
let's read the Bhagavatam. Come on, I'm sick of that answer. Say something.
Well,
Back me up here.
You were speaking about Bhagavatam, so I appreciate, and I think that's one of the lessons that we can really take out of the previous chapter. It is fascinating on that level that Krishna is going back and forth on this, and
Krishna himself is going back and forth.
Yeah, and so we get so fixed that I'm right and everybody else is wrong, and like you're saying, we brought it up to this level of hate. We've got to let go a little bit. We got to appreciate people. We got to try to see the good. Otherwise, our mind's always going to be disturbed, and we're never going to be able to absorb it in those things that will uplift us.
That's it. That's your closing. That's your closing statement.
Well, that's closing.
That's a good statement.
Opening up to now, we're approaching a new chapter, and some beautiful stuff is going to come out of this chapter. The prayers of Queen Kunti and Parikshit saved. You know, we're going to hear Kunti, Arjuna's mother, the mother of the Pandavas. You know, she kind of reveals herself as a great sage in the Bhagavatam. Here early on in the Bhagavatam, her prayers are some of the most quoted, most cherished prayers in the Bhagavatam. And she'll say this prayer. Maybe we don't reveal it now. Many of you will know what I'm speaking about, but I would say it may be the most courageous prayer in the Bhagavatam. Right? What do you think, Raghu?
You know, there's a whole list of different prayers. I want to get all the prayers in the Bhagavatam together, assembled.
I saw a nice book like that when we were at the Eco Village. A book had been released, was just like selected prayers.
Just all the prayers of the Bhagavatam?
I really should have gotten it. I gave it as a gift to Jiva. I really should have gotten one for myself.
You know, I tell you, these prayers of Queen Kunti, they're incredible. I'm excited to get into them. And they're almost like unbelievable because it's the last thing I was taught to pray for. And here's like a spoiler alert. She prays for catastrophe.
Yeah.
Duh. Who would pray for that? Like, that makes no sense. That makes no material sense whatsoever. If you're going to pray, if you get a lucky, right, if I say, here's a genie, rub the bottle, what do you want from the genie? Catastrophe? What? Right? It's like the last thing you pray for. Why do you pray for that? And she's saying when there's catastrophe, that's when there's connection. Because in catastrophe, in calamity, that's when I feel, oh, Krishna, I'm so close to you. And, you know, that's what we're training ourselves to do. That when things are good, I remember you. And when things are tough, I remember you. It's actually quite amazing. She set such a great example. Kunti is one of my heroes.
Yeah. Let the calamities happen over and over again so that I can remember. The prayer it will express that when I go through difficult circumstances in life, I feel even closer to God. And when I feel closer to God, I feel I'm transcending this whole world. So let the calamities happen again and again. And she's been through so many. You know, as we read Mahabharata, we see that she's been through so many. So therefore, I think in one sense, it's the most, I can think of one more courageous prayer, not in Bhagavatam. Can you think of what I'm thinking about, Roga? There's one prayer that's just like,
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee.
It wasn't that one. I like that prayer too. But,
blessed
you know,
is thee amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy
That
Mary,
prayer.
Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and to the hour of death. Amen.
You could tell me in Kostuba grew up Catholic boys.
Yeah. But Vasudev, was it Vasudev Datta? Who prays? Let all the karma of the entire universe fall on my head. Let me suffer everyone's.
He's like the Vaishnava Bodhisattva.
I mean,
right? Vasudev Dutt. He wants to take the karma of everybody.
Yeah. But in any case, we'll hear from Kunti here. But the chapter will start. There's an overlap with what's happening in the Mahabharata and the Pandavas there, and the Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam is now speaking of just after the battle of Kurukshetra. Bhagavad-gita is spoken in Mahabharata, and then there's 18 days of battle, and then it all ends, and that's where we're overlapping with that story right here in Bhagavatam, where now, and the reason why this comes up now is because we're going to hear about Maharaj Parikshit, who is the grandson of Arjuna. This chapter is going to lead into us hearing about him. But it starts with the Pandavas. They're at the Ganges, at the bank of the Ganges. They're performing rites for all the people that have died. But it's it's a very difficult time for them. You know, Yudhishthira is feeling responsible for the deaths of so many. In his very humble way, you know, he's feeling like this is all because of me. That all these people had to die, and we're going to hear about his pain, and we're going to hear about how he's consoled by Krishna and the other sages there, and some really nice stuff comes out in this first section. Before we get to Kunti's prayers,
can I bring up an interesting thing I'm going through right now? Okay. I've been.
As long as it has nothing to do with third eyes or astrology.
No, it's not astrology. It's not even that. It's about. I'm thinking about tragedy.
Yeah.
Like, what happens if somebody comes in this room and just starts killing people? I think I'm like what happens if a crazy guy on the subway just starts going crazy, and everyone's dying? What happens if I'm faced with like an immediate death? And so I've been trying to how can I quickly turn on, I want to go back to Krishna, like right now. Like, how can I instantly get Krishna conscious and get ready to leave my body? You know? And so I've been practicing just like closing my eyes and I'm having like pictures, various pictures of what I want to meditate on as I leave my body to protect me from fear and to prepare to leave my body. And so it's been sort of like when I'm sitting down or something, or I'm sitting in the morning, or before I go to bed, I'll try to get this vision of Krishna, Radha Krishna in my brain, like right down to the fine details. It's like I find it to be a really good practice.
I love that. That's great. You know, like basically wherever we bring, you know, we talk about meditation, right? But meditation really just means wherever our mind is going. You know, the practice of meditation is the practice of directing the mind. So like when we watch Netflix all day. It's kind of just like
It's a meditation.
It's a meditation. It's absorbing your mind in something. When we fantasize about something,
Lust is a meditation. That's like a deep meditation.
It's a deep meditation. And some of those, like things like, say, pornography, which will take
meditation
and absorb it so deep, and then people get addicted to that, and then
or like pornography, it leaves like a picture in the mind. It's not like it's like frozen in the mind as well. It's the actual looking at it and then taking it with you, sometimes for days, weeks, months, years.
It shapes the mind. Meditation is a practice of shaping the mind by bringing it to certain objects to meditate on. And when that's done deeply, it becomes effective. Now, on the point that you brought up, that point is brought up right in the Gita, where there's that verse, yum yum vapi smaran bhavam tajajante.
I love that one. Yum yum. Yum yum vapi smaran. Some verses just roll out funny. Yum yum, or yato yato. Yato yato naschalati manas chincha. Yum. Anyway, this one's yum yum.
That whatever one is meditating on at the time of death, to that they'll attain that state in the next birth. And then the next verse. So in other words, where our mind is at when we die, it determines our next birth. And it's said that how we think during our life is what determines our consciousness at the time of death, where we bring our mind. So the next verse, Krishna says, tasmat, therefore, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, therefore at all times, mam anusmara, remember me. He says, mam anusmara yudhyacha, and at the same time fight. Right, this word yudhya, which is Yudhishthira's name, comes from that. And you know what they say, Raghu? They say that the word jujitsu comes from that.
I heard that jujitsu comes from the word yuyutsav.
Yeah,
which
means to battle or to fight.
But there's also a warrior named Yuyutsu, right? He survived in the Mahabharata.
And Yudhishthira means one who's steady in battle.
Yudhishthira, great name.
And so Krishna says, if your meditation at the time of death is what determines your next birth, then therefore at all times, sarva kaleshu, right? At all times, mamanusmara, remember me, remember me. Yudhyacha, even when you're fighting, even as you're doing your, as a warrior, that was Arjuna's duty, and this was being spoken to him as he was going into battle. So he said, at all times, including even when you're engaged in your duties of life, everyone has their different duties, their different occupations that they do. At all times, think of me. And so the Bhagavad-gita lays out a way where our social roles that we play in life can be tied to our meditation. And so therefore that our entire life can become a type of meditation, a type of sacrifice, a type of meditation. So I'd like what you're saying is just a specific way of doing that. Even in my free time, let me bring my mind to a vision, right, to the form. Because it said we meditate on name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna. So you're bringing your mind to the form.
Form and pastimes, and pastime if the form is sort of moving in my mind.
Okay.
Stealing various buttery objects. I'll do it like when the plane's landing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When the plane's landing, if you're sitting next to me, get ready to start hearing prayers, mantras, songs, and with my eyes closed. That's when they say planes crash, takeoff and landing. Those are the two big times. Generally not in the air. So that's when I'm like getting that picture in my brain.
Yeah, everybody starts to clap as soon as the plane hits the ground, but it's like it's actually at the most dangerous point still.
Yeah, they're still going. That's when it's sort of like can fishtail, dump. Anyway, if you just analyze existence, it's so precarious. We are just like, never see that child's game where they're carrying a spoon in their mouth, holding an egg, and they have the relay race, carrying an egg, and they can't. That's our life. Our body's like that eggshell. We could die we're going to get crock in a moment. I mean, I think what a plane is. You're in a cigar-like tube flying 30,000 feet in the air. And if it wasn't for the guy bringing us, would you like a Coca-Cola? You'd be like, it's like I'm watching a movie, I'm getting a Coke, everything's normal. It's not normal. It's insane what's going on. You're in the air, man. We should all be like petrified. It's freaking petrifying. All right, let's get into this, Kostuba.
That's right. This will relieve you of your fear.
Yeah, it really does. It takes away fear. Sutta Goswami said, therefore, the Pandavas desiring to deliver water to the dead relatives who had desired it, went to the Ganges with Draupadi. The ladies walked in front.
So they're trying to perform ritual for the
dead. Okay, there's like a funeral ritual.
It's like a funeral ritual to bring auspiciousness to those who had just passed away.
To date, it is the custom in Hindu society to go to the Ganges or any other sacred river to take bath. When death occurs in the family, each of the family members pours out a potful of Ganges water for the departed soul and walks in a procession with the ladies in the front. The Pandavas also followed the rules more than 5,000 years ago. So many rituals. There's thousands of rituals we're missing out on. My astrologer was like, you're not doing that. It's Thursday. You're not worshiping the guru on Thursday. I was like, I didn't know. I worship the guru every day. Thursday, I got to worship the guru.
Yeah, but all those rituals will be impractical for us to do them all. So we try, Srila Prabhupada had such a way of bringing us to the essence of it all.
Yeah, that's what it is. There's essential things that we do.
But at a time like death, then there are rituals to perform, and those what's a great thing? You see, what Srila Prabhupada's saying here, he's just making a point. He says, to date, it is the custom to do this. And then he said the Pandavas were doing this exact same custom 5,000 years ago. And you see that still, although India is so rapidly becoming westernized and industrialized and whatever, but to this day, you still see this kind of thing in India, this connection to rituals that are thousands and thousands of years old. And you can see the value in them. And this is a rite of passage ritual, like a death ritual. There's birth, there's marriage, there's, coming of age, there's death. And, but the word that's used for these rituals, like we might say ceremony, like there's a funeral ceremony or there's a marriage ceremony, but the word that's used in Sanskrit is samskara.
Samskara,
which is a word that also means an impression that's left in the mind, is called a samskara. So often the problem with rituals is that we lose the meaning of them. But what rituals are designed for is to leave an impression in the mind. They're designed to leave a deep impression. And so it's nice that in their culture, when they say like, okay, now it's time for the wedding ritual or the wedding ceremony, literally what they're saying is, now it's time for the wedding mental impression.
It doesn't sound so romantic. Hey, we're going to have a great mental impression there. I got invited my family and we got napkins and made up and place cards.
But what it does is it draws you, like for instance, say you have the wedding ritual in the Western wedding.
Yeah.
And, there's things that are built into it that just kind of carry on a superstition. But I believe that there's a meaning to them, but the meaning becomes lost in time.
Sure.
Right. So in this culture, there's such clarity about this is meant to leave an impression in our minds. Let's do this and let's open up our minds to it and let's walk away being impressed.
Yeah, it's like we do a ritual. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu. That's a ritual. And it's important to do that ritual. And I think people appreciate when they start chanting these mantras, but the rituals should have some substance. We should actually, even though I say it every day, I got to be aware of what I'm saying. First, I'm offering obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Then to, Narayan Rishi. Then to Saraswati. Then to Srila Vyasadeva. If you keep the meanings of the rituals, those rituals become substantial.
Yeah.
And not just that we're just doing some mindless rituals, which was sort of the reason why a lot of us gave up on maybe our traditional past that we grew up with. We saw the priest doing some ritual. It made no sense to me. No one ever told me what it was. and I felt disconnected from it. But rituals are great. I love rituals.
Me too.
What?
Aligned with the heart opening, like that ritual.
Damodar's butting in here. You can't hear him. He's just butting in. You got like 10,000 people listening, and you're telling me about your heart. What's going on, Damodar? No, you're wonderful. We love you. You got kids. Kids love the winding. If you're a parent, okay, it's our ritual. It's nighttime ritual, right? Parents love rituals. Morning ritual. Good morning. What are you grateful for? Time for breakfast. Okay, now you got to brush your teeth. Rituals are great. Are you kidding? I love rituals. What we don't like is like substanceless rituals. Let's all sing together at night. What a great ritual. Okay. Having lamented over them and sufficiently offered Ganges water, they bathed in the Ganges, whose water is sanctified due to being mixed with the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord.
The Ganges.
It's Lord Vishnu's foot bath. The Ganges, that's what they say. Lord Vishnu put his feet into a bath. And somehow, miraculously, undescribably, it flows down the Sushumna of the universe. What? How can that be? How can it flow down? I don't see it. You don't see it. It's mystical. Just like your body has a Sushumna, you don't see that Sushumna. It's like an invisible channel through your spine. You can't find it with an MRI, but it's there. All these meridian points the acupuncturists use, can't find them. They don't show up on an X-ray. They're there. Here's an interesting side note. Do you know when acupuncture got huge in America? It got huge when Richard Nixon went to China and he had open heart surgery and they didn't have anything to put him under. They just used acupuncture. And that's when it got popularized in America. Isn't that interesting? What do you think about that? So all these things are the mystical parts of the body these ancient cultures talk about. The Sushumna, just like we have a body, we have salt water in our bodies like the earth. There's a micro and there's a macro and then there's a micro. There's a micro and a macro. The universe has a Sushumna. And from that Sushumna, the Ganga descends. And it's coming with so much force that it has to stop on Shiva's head. And that's why Shiva's called Gangadhar. He's holding the he's holding the Ganga right on his head. And from the mats of Lord Shiva's head, it splits into many, many pieces. And it manifests on all the planets, not just on Earth. And it stays. Sometimes we tend to think like, well, it's going to go into the ocean now at Ganga Sagara. It enters into the Bay of Bengal. No, it goes, but it stays connected, and then it leaves again. It goes to lower planets, and it liberates people on lower planets. Ganga's quite amazing, and it's coming right from the spiritual world. That's why to take bath in the Ganga is like, it's practically magical. It's like Charnamrita, they say. It's like it's called Vishnu Pada, coming from the lotus feet of Vishnu. It's not an ordinary thing to bathe in the Ganges. Right? You got some Ganges experiences you want to share with us, Kastub? We bathe in the Ganges together.
One of my happiest days, I remember one of my happiest days was on Gaur Purnima, the appearance day of Sri Chaitanya in Mayapur, the place of his appearance.
Which is coming up.
Coming up soon.
We should do something special on Wisdom of the Sages for Lord Chaitanya's appearance.
Let's do it, for sure. And
this is like our church. This is our church.
Okay.
No, but I'm just saying that because, you know why? Because it's like yesterday I gave a lot of people tuned into the Krishna book reading last night on Patreon. It was like there's like 40 people. And I was feeling like, this is it. We have a morning program. We got evening program. It's a church. We've created our ashram.
It's true.
I just don't get any prasad. I don't get any mahaprasad. Otherwise, we have like a full-on functioning temple here. So we should have a special Gaur Purnim celebration.
Let's do it.
Okay.
So anyway, I was, in Mayapur, where Sri Chaitanya was born, and so many bhakti yogis come there for that holiday. but the Ganges is like really strong. And do you remember we used to go to the Mayapur festival every year, and like in the morning program, they have these announcements. There's about like, I don't know, 1,500 people there. And every year at like one morning they would say, just another warning to be very careful when swimming in the Ganges. Someone drowned yesterday. It's like,
Yeah, people drown in the Ganga.
and
It's
so,
always sort of like, really? It was always sort of like sad meets like glorious meets like,
right.
you know what I mean? Like, wow, that's fortunate and unfortunate at the same time.
Right. So many people will bathe in the Ganges on that day, and they had put out all these like those old fashioned kind of orange life preservers, those life vests.
Right. Yes.
and so
well, the thing about Indians and Aravind, you can tell me if I'm way off track here, or a DTG. Indians can't swim. A lot of Indians can't swim. That's such a general statement. A lot of Indians can't swim, though, and you see them if you go to in Varkala, or if you go to Goa, they'll go into the ocean all holding arms, like, okay, we're going to bathe in the ocean. We're going to be like, American Hollywood. We're going to bathe in the ocean. And next thing you know, like, people drown all the time. People drown all the time in India. But the Ganga is very, very strong also.
Yeah.
Go on, Prabhu.
So some friends of mine, we grabbed those life vests and we walked way, way, way up the river. And then we took those life vests and kind of just used them as like flotation devices. We kind of just lied on top of them and just floated down the Ganges. And from the top of Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi, this massive, holy tomb of Srila Prabhupada, they're playing bhajans out of the speakers. And wow. I could just steer myself around the Ganges on that life vest, going back and forth and just hearing that music. And the presence of the Ganges is so uplifting. It just always makes you feel good, It
sounds incredible.
It was beautiful. Yeah, it was really beautiful. But anyway, the Ganges is, I absolutely love seeing the Ganges, being around the Ganges, bathing the Ganges feels so uplifting, the Mother Ganga. So in any case, the Pandavas went there. People will go there, especially at the time of the death. They'll perform the rituals there. They'll throw people's ashes in there. And here we see that the Pandavas are there. It's interesting because the Pandavas, they're so dear to Krishna, right? Their position is so unique. The relationship that they have with him. Krishna is their cousin. Krishna is their friend. Krishna plays the role of their messenger. Krishna plays the role of their chariot driver. They're so deeply connected with Krishna, and still we're seeing that they're going through so many difficult experiences in life, right?
Right. It seems like, well, they know Krishna, everything should be easy.
Everything should be easy, yeah. But
right.
What we learned through reading about them in Mahabharata and in Bhagavatam is that, like when we see in Kunti's prayer, is that although she's going through these difficulties, because she's connected with Krishna, she's passing over them. That the difficulties in life are becoming nourishing rather than just purely tragic and suffering.
Right.
And so, Krishna says in the Gita 1858, much chata sarva durgani mat prasada tarisyasi. This is a verse for the past, 6 months or so, I've really think about a lot, Krishna says, much chata, if you become conscious of me, sarva durgani, all the difficulties, all the obstacles in life, mat prasada, you'll tarisyasi, by my grace, by my prasadam, right? Mat prasada, tarisyasi, you'll cross over all of them. So he doesn't say that the difficulties or the obstacles in life won't come. But he says, if you become conscious of me, then as you pass through this world, which is designed to create difficulties and obstacles, cross over them by my grace. Your consciousness will be lifted. You'll pass through them, and not with the kind of suffering of the average person, but but you'll gain from them all, And so we see that the Pandavas, they're not trying to shift and we following their footsteps. It's not that our goal in this world is to change the external circumstances so that we don't experience suffering, but is to restore the level of consciousness that allows us to transcend the external circumstances, no matter what they may be.
That's beautiful. Yeah, we're not going to get out. Just like it's not like we're not going to die just because I started chanting. It's not like we're not going to experience loss. We're not trying to like, I just want good luck. You know, bad things happen to good people. How am I going to deal with those reversals in life? And so I feel like what the Bhagavatam offers me is like an alternative to deal with what's my normal default? Complain, bitch, moan, cry, blame, right?
Yeah.
So I'm screwing around with my computer and I lost your face, Kastuba. Come back. There you go. All right. I'm going to keep going.
Text 4 or text 3?
Text 4. Citing the stringent laws of the Almighty and their reactions upon living beings, Lord Sri Krishna and the Munis began to pacify those who were shocked and affected. I love that word, the Munis.
These are different Moonies than the ones that people may be thinking.
It's like a band name. Yeah. Not to be confused with Reverend Sung Young Moon and the Moonies cult from the 1970s.
So this is really interesting, right? The Pandavas, you know, they've just lost their 5 sons.
Right.
Each one of them just lost a son. They just lost their guru. They just lost their grandfather. They just lost so many relatives. And not only that, but Yudhishthir, due to his humility, Arjuna's elder brother,
right,
he's feeling personally responsible for all of it, you know.
Right.
So it's a very hard time for him, and it's a very hard time for all of them. And it's saying that here that Sri Krishna and the Munis, you know, like Krishna as well as these other sages, these other wise people that are there, you know, and you were mentioning yesterday is that, you know, leaders need good counselors, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so those counselors are there. And it's saying that they're beginning to pacify, you know, the Pandavas and their families and so on. But it says that citing the stringent laws of the Almighty and their reactions upon living beings, Sri Krishna and the Munis began to pacify those who were shocked and affected. So they're coming forward with a soothing balm. You know, we all, if we have any compassion in our heart, when we see someone's going through something very difficult, we want to help soothe them.
Sure.
But often, because we don't have transcendental knowledge, we try to soothe with illusion.
Right.
Like, let's forget about all this and let's focus on something meaningless that'll just take your mind from it. But
Don't worry, be happy.
Yeah. Here it's saying that they're soothing them with truth, that those that passed away are spiritual. They haven't died. They've moved on. That we are all spiritual, that this world is designed in such a way that there, as it's mentioning here, there are stringent laws in this world that operate in a particular way. Let us understand them and let us together transcend them. So the laws of time and the laws of karma, the world that we're moving in is programmed with those laws. Now there's an existence beyond that, but while we're in this world, these will always be in effect. Now, Prabhupada writes some interesting stuff here in the commentary. You want to hear? It's a nice passage.
Yeah, please, you.
In our material stage, we can see neither ourselves nor the Lord for want of spiritual vision. We tend to be weak with our spiritual vision. But when we are liberated from material affection, from our attachment to material things, and are situated in our original spiritual form, we can see both ourselves and the Lord face to face. Mukti, which is a Sanskrit word for liberation from the bondage of the material world. Mukti means to be reinstated in one's original spiritual status after giving up the material conception of life, that the material things in life will make me happy, or that I am this material body. Therefore, human life is specifically meant for qualifying ourselves for this spiritual liberty, for becoming free from the material bondage. Human life is specifically meant for qualifying ourselves for this spiritual liberty. Unfortunately, under the influence of illusory material energy, we accept this spot life of only a few years as our permanent existence.
You got to hear this stuff every day, man.
Isn't it so good?
You know what I mean? You got to hear this every day.
I remember, some shows back, you were talking about how once, one brahmachari was telling you, like, just give this one life to Krishna, just this one.
Yeah, well,
like,
he was a
"That's the
brand
whole
new
thing."
brahmachari and a total fanatic. And it was my first day in the temple, just like staying overnight as a guest.
Yeah. And you're saying, what do you mean one life? It's just this one life. That's the whole thing. That's everything,
Yeah, I'm going to give this one life. Yes.
But Prabhupada calls it the spot life. An interesting term, right? The spot.
This what?
The spot life, right? In other words, if you took our whole existence and spread out in a long line, it would be non-ending.
It's a spot. It's a dot on a dot on a line.
Yeah. So we accept this spot life of only a few years as our permanent existence, and thus become illusioned by possessing. And now he'll give a list of the things that people would see as the source of happiness or enjoyment.
What's that book that's out right now? Like it's not, I don't even think it's written by a spiritual guy. It's called The Benefits of Religion or something like that. And one of the ideas of the benefits is spiritual, a religious practice. And Joshua Green's brother, what's his name? Brian Green, who was on Joe Rogan's thing, he was saying this too. There's a benefit of a spiritual group. And one of the benefits mentioned anyway was that you see yourself in perspective in a bigger picture of reality, which helps alleviate the pain of the day-to-day issues I have. I'm so wrapped up in this issue that's happening for a tiny moment historically, even in my life, even in my short life. My issues today is a spot.
I call it Bhagavatam perspective.
The Bhagavatam perspective, which is
right.
By the way, I want to butt it. Jamuna Jaya wrote this great comment. I've been looking at this whole time. I've heard Radhanath Swami say a spiritual life does not mean inoculation from one's life's difficulties, but it gives you an umbrella when it rains.
Okay.
That's a nice little T-shirt.
So it's going to rain. We just need to be prepared for it. And it's not by convincing ourselves that it's not going to rain. Right. It's not by diving deeper into the illusion. And so what Prabhupada
it's not about complaining about the rain.
That either. Right. It's about being prepared for the rain with transcendental knowledge. And so here he says, unfortunately, under the influence of the illusory material energy, we accept the spot life of only a few years as our permanent existence, and thus, with this wrong perspective, with this limited, let's say very limited perspective, and thus become illusioned by possessing so-called country, home, land, children, wife, community, wealth, etc. So like all of the things we think are the source of happiness, which are false representations created by Maya, illusion. Under the dictation of Maya,
my wife is created by Maya?
It's material energy. So then he says here, he said
not even answering me anymore. It's okay. I'm sorry.
He said that there are all these things that we think are the source of our happiness. And he says and when we think that way, he says, then under the dictation of Maya, we fight with one another to protect these false possessions. Once I accept that the external things are the source of my happiness, and you accept the same thing, now we have a competition for those external things.
Right.
So under the dictation of Maya, we fight with one another to protect these false possessions. By cultivating spiritual knowledge, we can realize that we have nothing to do with all this material paraphernalia. That's the perspective, right? Then at once we become free from material attachment. This clearance of the misgivings of material existence at once takes place by the association with the Lord's devotees who are able to inject the transcendental sound into the depths of the bewildered heart, and thus make one practically liberated from all lamentation and illusion. That is a summary of the pacifying measures for those affected by the reaction of the stringent material laws, exhibited in the forms of birth, death, old age, and disease, which are insoluble factors of material existence. There's no getting around them. You need to have this injection, right, of transcendental knowledge to be able to pass through it. And so he says, the victims of war, namely the family members of the Kurus, were lamenting the problems of death and the Lord pacified them on the basis of knowledge. Right. On the basis of knowledge. So it's that transcendental knowledge, hearing it from Bhagavatam, hearing it from Bhagavad-gita, that it doesn't make all the problems in life go away, but it gives us the perspective and the understanding through which we can pass through them, and they actually become blessings. Just like Narada said, he saw it as the special favor of the Lord when his mother died, although he was still.
It's all perspective, isn't it? Isn't it, Kastuba?
It's all perspective, but we lose that perspective if we don't hear it regularly.
Right.
It slips away. It sinks in. Hey, what a great thought! Yes, but if we don't hear it regularly, it doesn't become firmly rooted. Yoga practice means doing
regularly
repeatedly
and apply it.
Yeah.
To the degree that I apply this stuff, it takes the deeper root, isn't it?
That's how it works, right? Yeah, repeatedly hearing and reflecting on it and applying it.
That's it.
That's it.
And
that's our time for today.
And that's our time for today. And that's my time in Houston. I'm about to get in a quick car to Phoenix and fly out of here. And we're back at the show at 5 a.m. Eastern time. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, welcome. And make sure you give us a 5-star review. It helps with our ranking and the bigger picture of things. Write us a message if you want to join our online community at Patreon. Do it. It's patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. We got a cool thing going on right now. I'm really happy with the Zoom people too. We got a big fat Zoom group we had like 80 people this morning. Bolo. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks everybody joined late that I didn't say hello to this morning. Steve, Thomas Hari Bol, Kristen Rajater. Bolo. Isn't that great when he says Bolo?
Love to the Zoomers, love to the others. Thank you, everybody.
What did you say, Costume?
I said love to the Zoomers and love to the others, and love to you, Raghu.
Love to the others. Love to the Zoomers. Love to you. Love to the Californians. Jai Shri Krishna Bolo Jai Radhe.